From LALATE headquarters in Santa Monica, this is Afternoons LALATE.
It's a big afternoon as more companies report corporate earnings today. And what do they say? Some beat and some miss. We'll have the latest details across the board. The earnings numbers matched with those labor numbers. A big surprise as labor pulled back in the latest numbers unreleased on Thursday. What could be coming for the weekend? All the latest details across the board as the labor market relatively improves. Meantime, what's going on with that inflation? The latest details on inflation is that it's not particularly peaked in the core parts. That's big news for your benefits. A lot of more money. How much more money? About $5,000 across the board. We'll go over the latest details about where inflation is, where it's going, and how much your benefits going up. Then we'll turn to the incredible news about why there's a forced stimulus check in every U.S. state and why, out of nowhere, there's now not one, but 10 categories of checks. We started with 3 stimulus checks back in the month of March on this channel, 4th stimulus checks, and then out of nowhere last weekend, 7 new checks became law. That's in addition to the lifetime stimulus that heats up for beneficiaries. We have a lot of money to go over in tonight's recording for the shores of Santa Monica, California. And you need to get this money because 1, there's a recession underway, 2, that inflation has not peaked, and 3, there's big question marks for the housing market. Well, the latest details on that housing market all released this week. New jobless claims, housing data, inflation, recession, and the latest details on your stimulus in the big broadcast tonight. It's 10 categories of checks now available. Viewers have been getting 3 categories of checks since March, and then last Sunday, 7 new categories of checks were added. And it's not just 10 checks, it's upwards of 100 checks. We're going to go over all the incredible great news tonight for you. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. If you rent, if you own, if you're on benefits, if you're not on benefits, go get it across the board. We're going to go over all these incredible details, plus what to expect from the Federal Reserve when they return in September with that September FOMC meeting of that interest rate spike. Big broadcast tonight. I'm excited you're here. In tonight's broadcast, we'll be going over your economy, your recession, your inflation, and also your benefit raises, plus the housing market and everything you need to know about labor and that forced stimulus. The breaking news starts right now as Afternoons LA gets underway. And good afternoon, everybody. For August 19th, 2022, from the shores of Santa Monica, California, this is Afternoons LA. We go into the weekend with that labor number released on Thursday, a big shocker. We latest details on inflation. We'll go over the latest details of that. The housing market, particularly surprising as it weakens left and right, will have the impact on your money, even if you don't own a home. And then, of course, those 10 categories of checks. There's so much to go over in today's recording. Congratulations to all the new members who have been getting these 10 categories of checks that went under this video and joined this channel in this last 24 hours. And all the great details start right now on a big broadcast of Afternoons LA. Good afternoon. How are you? It's exciting to be here on a week in which the data was really hitting left and right. First, we're going to go over to the corporate earnings. We're a series of major companies beating and a series of major companies missing. The week was dominated by retail companies. Target, Walmart, and Kohl's department stores were among them. Kohl's was a dramatic miss, and then Target was really actually worse. Target had given you downward guidance in the month of May, saying that inflation is really hitting its bottom line badly. In June, it guided downward again, and then it reported corporate earnings this week, and it missed on the downward guidance. Oh boy. But don't think that Target was the narrative for the rest of the market, because a lot of companies beat this week. We had Estee Lauder, we had also companies that really shock the markets, like BJ's, which is a wholesale discounter like a Sam's Club or a Costco. And then we had Cisco that actually did quite well, but Target was not. Shares of Target fell 2% in pre-market trading when they announced their quarterly profits fell by 90%. Oh my goodness, 90% in the second quarter when they reported those corporate earnings on August 17th. If we hadn't dealt with excess inventory on hand, we would have avoided some of the short-term pains on the profit line, said its chief financial officer, Michael Fickle, in the conference call this week. Well, they were not alone, because guess what? Other companies who reported earnings this week were not having the type of bloodbath that Target was. And that is indicative of basically a bifurcated market. Some industries doing well, other industries not doing well. Kohl's was the major miss yesterday, Thursday, when its shares fell nearly 7% in pre-market trade when it missed on top and bottom. But BJ Wholesalers beat, and their stock was up sizably on that news. Meantime, other companies showed that they can sustain a recessionary environment, like Cisco, and also Tapestry, which owns Kate Spade and Coach, the high-end brand. Here's what you need to know on another front as well. Right as we were getting those latest earnings for Kohl's, we were getting those jobs numbers, and those jobs numbers were a shocker. The number of jobless claims for the week ending August 13th actually improved. That labor number released on Thursday morning this week was actually improvement. We have seen that labor number get worse day after day, week after week, but suddenly it improved this week. And what happened with that labor number? Boy, this was a surprise. That labor number pulled back. I had said that the labor number was going to grow to 265. I was wrong. It pulled back to 250. This is the first pullback of those labor unemployment claims per week since the month of April, where we've been tracking up every single week from 140 to 260. Relief, yes. Great news, not necessarily, because it's only the first week of a pullback and improvement on the jobless claims numbers, and it's only 5,000 it's only 10,000 less claims than the week before. What's important to understand is that continuing unemployment claims are still relatively high, but the labor rate is relatively low. Now, we also had the manufacturing report. This is very important. It shows how much manufacturing is happening in the United States economy. Growing or shrinking? Well, last month it was shrinking. It was a negative 12.6%. This month, the data came in, it actually improved. It grew 6.2%. That is the manufacturing report released by the Philadelphia Fed this week. So when you have a mixed bag there, the big question mark is there an industry that's really not mixed, that everything about it is poor and weak and indicative of a very bad recession? And the answer is yes. That industry that is suffering a major recession right now, and there is no doubt about it, is not lobster shorts. Lobster shorts have been in recession forever. No, it's not the lobster short industry. It is the housing industry. The housing industry really has been in recession for a while. And we learned more data about that housing industry this week. A month ago, the home builders miss on their sentiment. The day after, existing home sales miss, and the day after that, the new homes fell as well. So you and I understood that housing was in trouble last month, and we wanted to see the latest details on housing this week because it's an indication of inflation for you. If you don't own a home, it doesn't matter because housing is a really great indication for inflation. In a second, we're going to go over why inflation is important for you if you're on benefits. So, what do we learn about housing? On Thursday, we learned that sales of previously existing homes fell 6% in the month of July compared to the month of June. That's not good. That's according to the National Association of Realtors. Sales dropped 20% compared to the same month of last year. Then we had the high end and the low end all getting pullbacks. Sales of homes over 1 million are down 13%. 750 to 1 million are down 8%. 100,000 to 250 are down 31%. So every part of the market is down. And that was just on Thursday's data. The day before that, we had data that came in, and it was not good as well. August 17th, we had the home builder's cancellation rate. This is a person who goes on a contract to buy a home and then says, you know what? It's not really close to the local $12 ice cream store. I need to have a home close to the $12 ice cream store and close to the San Francisco hairstylist. Otherwise, I'm not buying the home. Who would say that? Jump in the live chat. I think you know who says that. So that home buyer pulls out of the contract. And home buyer cancellations doubled this last week compared to the month of April. It's out of control, especially in the state of Texas, where it's up 27% cancellation, and in Southwest United States, which is, of course, California as well, up 25%. This was a major softening of the housing market. But the biggest news was 2 days before that, when the National Association of Home Builders, Wells Fargo Housing Market Index, said, you're in a housing recession. Don't doubt it. You're in a housing recession. NAHB's chief economist, Robert Dietz, said the news at the time. Tighter monetary policies for the Federal Reserve and persistent elevated construction costs have brought on a housing recession. So there you go. Housing recession. Housing is definitely a recession. So what do we need to know about you and your money? Well, housing is an indication of inflationary pressures. And the other indication of inflationary pressures is the consumer price index number that was released last week. The retail sales number that came in this week was indicative of that CPI last week. And then it was also indicative and duplicative of the PPI released as well. What have we learned on that inflationary story in the last 7 days? Because this impacts your benefits. What we have learned is that inflation may have peaked at the top line number, but not at the core number. And this is big news because your benefits are going up a lot. First, let's go over your benefits, and then we'll cut back to the inflationary story. SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits. Your benefits are going up a lot. How much? The most of a generation. And it's dependent upon 3 months of data, and how much? About $5,000. This is what we talked about in the opening teaser of a lifetime stimulus. Lifetime stimulus. And why is this happening? Because inflation is not peaked. Now let's go back into the inflationary story. Your inflationary pressures determine your raise of your benefits. And what have we seen in the last 7 days? Well, we had the consumer price index number released last week that was relatively flat. The producer price index number that was also flat. And then we had the retail sales number released yesterday, and that was flat as well. Let's go over the narrative starting right now. The consumer price index for the month of May tracked higher to a whopping 8.6%, but we weren't done there yet. In the month of June, the CPI, how much you pay as the consumer at the store for milk and egg, CPI stands for Consumer Price Index, surged even higher. And what was it? There you are, 9.1%, out of control. And that is great news for your benefits because your benefits go up a lot because of it. So let's go over the calculation. Let's go over where we are tonight. We understood in the month of May that inflation is tracking higher, 8.6%. And we knew that we need to see inflation basically stay the same or go higher. Well, in June it went higher, 9.1%. Then we knew in July it needs to stay the same or stay higher. And we got that July number this last week, basically pulled back about a half a percentage point, softened. But when you look at the core parts of the CPI, because it has different individual divisions, they actually went up month to month. Why is this important? Your benefits, if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, railroad benefits, veterans benefits, are tied to something called COLA, Cost of Living Adjustment, COLA. It's determined by one number over 3 months, CPI-W. Yeah, it's the same CPI we just went over. For the month of July, August, and September. We need to see that CPI basically stay where it is or go a little bit higher, not pull back and go down dramatically at all, because if that happens, your benefits go up a lot. Now let's go over why. Once your benefits go up, they never go down. So let's say your benefits this year go up 12%. That's 12% lifetime. They never go down once they go up. And then next year, if inflation, let's say it's 4%, then they go up another 4%. Wow, this is great news. So now let's go back into what's happening with inflation and your benefits. We wanted to see if this inflationary data released last week was flat or a little bit higher. And it was basically flat. When you look at the top line number, I said that inflation had peaked because the top line number, the headline number, the summary number, was a little bit down, about a half a percentage point. But when you looked at the individual components, they were still going up month to month. Tonight, this afternoon, as we sit here today, what are those component parts, or what are they still doing? The latest data is the following. Milk and eggs, the products you buy in the supermarket, are still going up month to month. Second, labor still going up, wages inflation. Number three, rent still going up. And then finally, the other basic component parts. The only one that pulled back in the month of July was really gasoline. So if you look at that and say, well, they're either staying the same or going up, it's looking really good. Let's go back in the calculation. Your benefits are going up. Direct deposit, yes. Otherwise, the mail, yes. Do you have to do anything? No. You, yes. SSI, SSDI, Social Security Rural Benefits. We need to see 3 months of data. We saw the first month last week, August 10th. We need to see this month we're living right now, experiencing right now, which will be released on September 10th approximately. Then September released in October. And if the inflation stays basically where it is, it goes higher, your benefits are going to get that massive lift. How much? About $5,000, some of you more, some of you less, same percentage for all of you. The Seniors League, a nonprofit organization, looked at that data last week when that inflationary number, the headline number, the CPI, was at 8.5%. They said based upon a headline summary number of 8.5%, they project your benefits would go up 10.1%. What am I saying? I'm saying I think that's conservative. I think it could be higher. What do you say? If you believe that everything that is a component of the CPI is staying the same and may potentially go higher, then you think that 10.1 is a little bit on the conservative side, could be higher across the board. There you go. Ultimately, what are analysts saying? They're saying the price of gasoline is not going to stay down, definitely, because gasoline tracks higher in September because of natural disasters, refineries going offline, more demand. And if you don't believe that salaries, rent, or consumer staples are going down in price dramatically, then you believe that inflation's tracked a little bit higher. And there you go. And this is why you want to get a forced stimulus check in every U.S. state. The breaking news delivered last Sunday was a shocker. Featured on this channel in a primetime special report at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, Congress passed 7 new categories of stimulus checks. 7 new categories of stimulus checks. And this is on top of the existing 3 categories of stimulus checks that I've been getting viewers of this channel since the month of March. Immediately this last Monday, they went right into the membership newsletter. Immediately, viewers have been going and getting them right away. Viewers have been getting those first 3 categories of checks since the month of March, and now they're getting those additional 7 categories as well. Let's go over those 7 new categories of forced stimulus checks that became law passed by Congress on Sunday. I've given them a lettering system from Check E to K. Check E, $7,500. Check F, $4,000. Check G, 30% off. Check K, $2,000. Check I and J, $8,000. And check K, $14,000. Incredible. These checks, 7 categories of checks, E to K, are in addition to the first 3 categories of checks, A, B, and C, which have been on this channel since the month of March, and the viewers have been getting since the month of March. Let's go over those first 3 categories of checks, and what they are, and how they became law, and what you need to know starting right now. They're approximately $100,000 done by executive action of Joseph Biden. They're in every U.S. state. They are federal stimulus. They are federal stimulus paid by the federal government, not paid by the state. Done by executive action, you qualify. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. If you rent, if you own, if you're on benefits, if you're not on benefits, go get it across the board. How do you get these incredible checks? You go onto this video, join the channel. Become a member like the hundreds do daily and get these incredible checks across the board. And with that, let's go over one of the great benefits of becoming a member, the worksheets. In the membership newsletter, down around the 3rd line of the membership newsletter nightly, is the worksheets. The worksheets are a series of pages, a PDF. You can print out from your cell phone or your computer and take notes. Helps you get stimulus and helps you keep track of the economy. And here we go. These are the worksheets. Page 1 of the worksheets says the following: inflation. What did we learn today about inflation? We learned today that headline inflation may be down a little bit, but the component parts are actually still up month to month. There's no indication that those component parts are pulling back. Recession. Housing recession currently underway, clearly said by the housing experts. And the other parts of recession will be analyzed in the second half of this video. Labor. Pull back on labor. 250,000 new jobless claims this Thursday, not 260. Slight improvement across the board, but not time to celebrate because that's the second highest number of the year. And then the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve, in my prediction, will be coming back in September with a 75 basis point increase, and then doing 75 basis point increase on those interest rate spikes, September through December, every single month until they get it to 2% inflation. I gotta tell you, you need to save this video because I'm the only person saying this. No one dares say this. Wall Street's basically saying 175 basis point increase in September, and that's it. And they're gonna pivot, that's actually the expression they use, pivot and stop doing interest rate spikes. We'll go over the latest details on that in the big second half of this recording, and tonight on Evenings LALATE at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. The next page of the worksheet is the one that's the big winner because people are really keeping great track of their stimulus. Tonight we go over something that's very important to understand. I'm making very clear when I use the word categories, that there's 10 categories of checks, not 10 checks, but 10 categories of checks. Let's go over those 10 categories right now. Check A is really just one check in that category. Check B is one category because in that check B, you're going to meet someone in just a second who got 80 checks in that check B category. Check C, you got 5 utility bills, 4 utility bills. Rent, okay, let's say it's 5 bills per month. And then you got 12 places to reach out to in the membership newsletter. Then you got 12 months a year. Yeah, that's a lot of check C's to reach out to. So you see for check C, that's about 80 checks. Then you have now check E2K. Yeah, this incredible worksheet page has a place for you to keep track of all those checks because you got to keep track of when you applied, who you applied with, what you got paid with. And if you didn't get paid for something, then go back and ask for those months as well. Last Saturday, one viewer got 14 months of rent. Days before, another viewer got 14 months of rent. And another viewer got 12 months of utilities. And then Spelly got check A and he got check C's. And then one viewer got 80 to 100 checks out of Florida for check B. She had filled out this page, but forgot she had filled it out. And then she got that message from the state of Florida. It said, ma'am, you've been approved for check B. Oh, wow, I forgot I filled it out. She went back to her notes on the worksheets, and she had filled out check B for her mortgage. She got approved for her mortgage, but not 1 month. 18 months of her mortgage. My goodness, that's tens of thousands of dollars. It gets better. She looked at her notes on the worksheet, and she applied for all her utilities. Let's say it was 4 utilities and a mortgage. That's 5 bills per month. 5 times 18. That, my friends, is about 80 to 100 checks. Incredible, great news. Let's go to the next page of the worksheet. The next page of the worksheet is your benefit raises. So that's that 10.1 that Seniors League is saying. I think it may be a little bit more. We'll analyze that more tonight on Evenings LALATE. Gasoline is tracking a little bit higher. Did you notice that in the membership newsletter last night? Gasoline was, I think it was 97 or 98 international Brent crude. It was 93 the day before. It was a big jump. I was surprised when I saw it. And then, of course, tonight on Evenings LALATE, we'll go over that student loan debt forgiveness. The president, insiders say, will not be making a determination about student loan debt forgiveness until this fall. I'll analyzing the situation with you in prime time tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. But first, let's get some stimulus checks. In the big second half, we're going to go over those incredible big stimulus checks that are paying people big sums of money. And you deserve big sums of money as well. What do? You get ready for the big second half. You pull out your pen and paper, and if you're not a member, you go right on this video and become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Cow Cedo VIP. What do? You join this channel. And the big second half, we're going to go over check A, check B, and check C. Then we'll be turning to the question of recession versus no recession. We'll go over the latest details on what is happening with those analysts who say the Federal Reserve is going to pivot. Should the analysts be pivoting? Well, I have a lot to go over in the big second half. Plus, we'll have a preview of tonight's Evenings LALATE. Oh, boy, we got a big second half today. Big money, big news, and big surprises. It's heating up in the big second half. I'll see you back in 60 seconds. Become a member, and we'll go over all those incredible checks in just a second as Afternoons LALATE continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly.
That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE.
Time continues right now for a beautiful August 19, 2022 from the shores of Santa Monica, California. A big weekend upon us, and I hope you stay with me all weekend long. We'll have a lot of major news to go over as we analyze what we learned this week about the housing, the inflation, and also your big money. Hope you became a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP, to get that huge newsletter tonight and all those incredible 4 stimulus checks in every U.S. state. We're going to go over all that incredible money starting right here, right in the big second half. The heat is on. Your recession, your inflation, your benefit raises, and of course your housing market unemployment. It's for stimulus, and it all starts right now in the big second half of LALATE. How are you? Good afternoon. Hope you're having a great day. It's gotten so beautiful here in Southern California today. It is gorgeous. I gotta bless the weather gods. There is no more summer for Southern California. Thank goodness. We're gonna be all in the 60s and 70s all throughout the rest of the year. So we are done. You know, sometimes in September we have a blistering 90, 80-day, 80s, 100-day temperatures. But this year, somehow we got lucky. So it broke, and that is it. It's going to be 60s and 70s, and we're done. So if you saw me sweat like 2 weeks ago, you're not going to see me sweat anymore. Let's get to the big second half right now. The President of the United States, back in the month of March, passed a series of executive actions that pay you big checks. And at the time, viewers said, LA, can you find me some checks? Great timing, because at the time I was looking for them, and I found them. 3 focuses I had for you. 1, big sums of money. 2, broad eligibility. And 3, ease to get them. And I got it all for you. Number 1, I wanted big amounts of money, and we got it. About $100,000. At the time in February, I said that this economy is going to recession. I was the only American who was recording that in broadcast news. Number 2, broad eligibility. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 or less, go get it. If you rent, if you own, if you're on benefits, if you're not on benefits, go get it. It's in every U.S. state. Number 3, the ease of getting it. All in the membership newsletter. I put it into a membership newsletter. So you go through, down, and apply. Check A, check B, check C. It's all right in there. And with that, let's go over all the incredible news starting right now. The very first check is check A. It's a $6,500 to $12,000 for stimulus check in every U.S. state. This is the check that Spelly got. It's astronomically wonderful. Let's look at the graphic starting right now. $6,500 to $12,000. A single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. And if you're on benefits, go get it as well. How do you get it? Very simple. You become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power, Casino VIP. Go down the membership newsletter, you find Check A. Click the link and it sends you right into the Nationwide website and go get it. Choose the Weatherizing grant, of course. And have another success story like Spelly did. If you have a success story, post in the live chat because you inspire people when you do. You're not done there yet. You can go get Check B. Check B is $15,000 to $80,000. It's a 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state. And this is the check that the viewer out of Florida got. 80 months, 80 checks to 100 checks. Just incredible, great news for her. $15,000 to $80,000, a 4 stimulus check in every U.S. state. Single individual, $75,000 less, go get it. Married couple, $150,000 less, go get it. And if you're on benefits, go get it as well. How do you get it? Step 1, become a member. Join the channel. Then go down the membership newsletter till you find Check B. Click the link and go in and go get it. Look at that. Check B, $80,000. Check A, $12,000. That's $100,000, and we're just getting started. You're going to go get Check C. This is the check that a viewer last weekend got 14 months of rent. And days before that, another viewer got 14 months of rent. And days before that, a viewer got 12 months of utilities. It's for rent, utilities, mortgage, assistance, and more. How do you get it? You go right on the video and become a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP. I have been getting people Check C, which had other names on this channel since December 2020. It's the longest standing checks on this channel. And viewers have been cleaning up ever since. Many viewers have been getting rounds of this check all along. Back when I initially recorded Check C, I said, go and get 3 to 4 months of it. Then viewers started getting 12 months of it. Then now they're getting 14 to 18 months of it. Take what I inform you about, take what I educate you about, and make it bigger and bolder. Because ultimately, if you can do bigger and bolder than I ever record, that is a success story for you. Yes, people are now getting on average 14 months of Check C, which was not what I had originally recorded on this channel 2 years ago. That is how people have gotten better by watching the videos more frequently on this channel and learning to earn. Let's look at some of the success stories for Check C over the years. From $20,000 to $30,000, wow, huge sums of money for rent. Go get Check C. Let's look at these numbers for utilities. Incredible. Mark's brother-in-law got $15,000. The same brother-in-law got $250,000 for SNAP and then combinations. A combination of things. Let's say the water bill and the rent. Here's Nisi. She went from $23,000 then to $50,000. Mark went from $32,000 then to $166,000. And Lorraine went from $105,000 then to $155,000. All these viewers may be in higher today as well. What do you want to do? Step 1, go under this video, subscribe. Step 2, go under the video, hit that bell to make sure all notifications are set to all on. And number 3, go under this video and join the channel. Join the channel and get these huge sums of money because you're watching the number 3 most watched financial news channel in America, expanding to number 2. LALATE, you're watching as one channel now, is expanding to 3 channels in one financial news network. LA2 and LA3 are just days away. LALATE.com, the website that started all no less than 20 years ago, has been rebranded with all the latest breaking news on your economy. 2 stories published last night. LALATE Live, you may be watching it in this video, airs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a video that everyone loves. Features everything updated on the hour, by the hour about your money. And there's so much more coming to this family. I'm so excited you're part of this family. Join the channel. And with that, let's go into the big second half. In the big second half today, we go over the latest details on that recession and why, when you look at the situation for this economy, there's something strange going on. And let's address that strangeness starting right now. What is it? It's analysts who want to tell you that the Federal Reserve is going to pivot. You're going to hear a lot more of this when we come to September. What does this pivot story mean? Wall Street analysts, generally equity traders, stock traders, are saying that the Federal Reserve is going to pivot and change its policy. What is its current policy? The Federal Reserve's current policy is reduce inflation. And the story by the stock analysts is that the Federal Reserve is going to interest rates spike and then stop. They're going to pivot and say, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. The narrative is that there will be no more interest rate spikes. The narrative is that the Federal Reserve is going to leave inflation where it is, and the narrative is the Federal Reserve is going to change what its current position is. Is there anything to believe in this narrative of these equity traders? The answer is no. Number 1, the Federal Reserve actually has a mandate. They can't do that. The mandate is to get inflation under control. So for equity traders to tell you the Federal Reserve is going to do something other than what the Constitution entitles the Federal Reserve to, tells the Federal Reserve to do is sort of shocking. It's just a little bit shocking. The Federal Reserve has a dual mandate. Number 1, to get inflation under control. Number 2, to have maximum employment. They have the maximum employment because of the lowest unemployment rate since the 1960s. They do not have inflation under control. It's 8.5%. They need to have inflation to 2%, says the Federal Reserve. So for those equity traders to say the Federal Reserve is going to leave inflation alone at 8%, it's ridiculous. Number 2, those equity traders telling you that the Federal Reserve is going to stop interest rate spikes, well, then how is inflation going to come down? It's going to walk itself down? Again, also just ridiculous. Pivot, yes. If you hear the story of pivoting for the Federal Reserve, just sort of roll your eyes. It's like someone telling you lobster shorts are high couture. Next, what is the Federal Reserve going to likely do? I got to tell you, I'm the only one saying this, and I'm very concerned that I am the only one saying this. The Federal Reserve, in my prediction, is going to do 75 basis point interest rate spike in September and 75 every single month until December, at least, until inflation gets to 2%. Why am I saying this? Number one, they said they need to get inflation to 2%. Number two, they last did 275 basis point interest rate spikes in July and in June. Number three, 50 basis point didn't work when they tried it in prior months. And number four, they've actually said to you, whether it's Bowman, Boulard, or Daly, that they're going to basically stay where they are with the current interest rate spikes. Now, why am I concerned about this? I'm not concerned about my prediction. I'm concerned that there's no one else making this prediction. Why? Because the way that the markets work is they assess risk. Is there a risk of event A happening? Is there a risk of event B is happening? Well, if you look at the situation, look at the comments from the Federal Reserve, you look at their meetings notes released from the FOMC meeting of July yesterday, they all say they're doing the same interest rate spikes indefinitely until they get interest rates down, inflation down to 2%. And yet Wall Street does not have this risk embedded into the markets. If there's a risk that's out there and it's not embedded into the markets, it's bad news. It's really bad news. When you do not assess risk, you're basically assuming a great scenario and not assuming there may be a not so great scenario coming on the horizon. Now, ultimately, you may not own stocks, you may not own bonds, but this impacts you dramatically because guess what? Consumer confidence, consumer spending, consumer everything is impacted when there's a potential stock market crash. And a stock market crash would happen if the stock market has not assessed risks of massive continuing interest rate spikes from the Federal Reserve for the rest of this year. At the moment, they've not assessed that risk. It's really one of those situations that you and I just sit back and say, what are they doing? Ultimately, how do you prepare? How do you prepare for the scenario that's potentially evolving right now? Potentially evolving where there's a risk out there. Wall Street has not assessed the risk, and you and I all know the risk is this. Number one, you remove your debt at home, especially any adjustable rate debt. So if you have any debt that is an adjustable rate to it, remove it. Because the Federal Reserve, if they do exactly what I say they're going to do, 75 basis point increases for September, October, November, December, that's 4 times 75. That's a lot. And I'm not telling you they're stopping at December. I'm just telling you they're getting that all the way through December. That's a lot higher interest rates than you're paying right now. So if you have credit card debt or car loans, the debt rate, the interest rate you're paying right now is going to be much cheaper than what it's going to be done in December if there's 4 more 75 basis point increases. Number two, increase as much of your savings as possible. And that savings starts with that stimulus. Number three, be prepared and alert of a financial cliff around the horizon, because that financial cliff around the horizon will impact people, and people who don't know what's happening are not going to be prepared. You will. I'm saying that potential financial cliff is around September. Why? Because this is when more things impact left and right. Number four, understand that in a recession, things don't all happen on day one. In a recession, certain things happen initially, other things happen thereafter, and other things happen thereafter as well. For anyone who wants to tell you that it's not a recession because nothing has happened in subject number one, that's not how a recession happens, because subject number one may not be impacted until later in the recession. What are the examples? Number one, the housing industry usually falls apart at the start of a recession. The labor market usually falls apart at the end of a recession. So different parts of the economy impacted at different times is what you need to know when dealing with recessionary pressures. Ultimately, I want to end today's broadcast with a praise of someone. You've been doing a really good job this last week. You've been doing a really good job in so many regards. Number one, you're applying for lots of categories of checks. You understand there's now we've now gone from 3 to 10 categories of checks. You're really laser focused on applying for all those incredible checks. You understand the true spirit of the Purple Hawk. The Purple Hawk was an expression created by me that describes getting stimulus as soon as available. Don't wait around because people jump in front of you, and ultimately it may run out. You don't want it to run out. Number two, you've been very inspirational in a great way. You've been in the live chat posting the comments of congratulations to people who've gotten checks and then celebrating your achievements as well. That is how it becomes infectious, encouraging people to do greatness and doing greatness yourself. Number three, you've been great with the details. You've been really good with the details. You've been in the live chat commenting about what you see in the stores. How many store employees are there at checkout? Has the milk and eggs gone up? Have people been laid off in your town? Have store closures happened? Do you see less people on the highway driving their cars? You've been very observant of economic elements, and that's improving your learning. Why? Because ultimately, if your eyes and ears are open, you can see the elements of this economy changing before I even report. You can see the impact of inflation. You can see the impact of recession. And when you observe that and you realize, wait a second, I see it. I discuss it with my neighbor. We all see it going on. You're ahead of the ball game. Ultimately, you're doing a really good job. Keep it up. Go on to this video, become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP, and join me tonight on Evenings LA at 5 o'clock. We'll go over the latest details on the student loan debt forgiveness story. It's a breaking news story, it's left and right. We'll go over the latest details on that recession versus not recession. Is that story really dead? That there's no recession? I'll have the latest details tonight on Evenings. Plus, we'll be going back over to housing. Why have some people still thought that the housing market's robust if it's clearly in recession? And finally, your stimulus. More checks, more categories of checks. And why it's important to understand that 10 categories of checks is not 10 checks. And it's a lot more checks than that. I look forward to seeing you tonight on a big, bold, beautiful Evenings LA. Go into this video, become a member, Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP, and get ready for all the deliciousness tonight. From the shores of Santa Monica, California, stay informed, stay focused, have a beautiful day, and stay with LA for more.